Okay, so welcome back to my channel. Okay, first I want to start off by apologizing for the quality of the video. If you saw the video on my other channel for from Sinn's perspective, I uploaded a video last week or so titled #Renting Sucks. I was supposed to have moved out of this apartment over a week ago, but the apartment wasn't ready. And so right now I'm kind of in limbo trying to figure out what my next move is going to be. I'm actually looking at other places, but the gist is, my apartment is packed up, including my camera equipment. So I'm having to use the camera on my laptop. So that's why there's such a difference in the quality of videos that I would usually do when I'm on camera. So this is actually going to be a recap of Absentia Season 1, Episode 4. Okay, so it picks up with Adam. He's still in the study. You know, the last episode ended with Emily. She was able to sneak out of his home. He's sitting in the study. He's on the phone. He doesn't name who he's talking to. He's basically trying to get a tab on where Emily is. An agent, I'm assuming this is an agent, but he, the person on the phone basically tells him that he lost her, that he doesn't, at this point he doesn't know where she is. And so Adam opens his desk drawer, and he goes underneath, he pulls out an envelope, and he pulled out of the envelope, he pulled a plastic bag, looks like an evidence bag. I couldn't quite make out what it was. It could have been hair, I don't really know. But it was obvious that he was checking to see if it was still there. So, I mean, that was basically how that scene ended. Next you see Emily, and she's rushed. She's at this point has obviously contacted Nick. It's unsure. I'm not sure who arrived first. I think Nick may have arrived to the meetup spot first. But there was another car there, and someone was actually there recording them. So this person at this point, I guess, is because he lost Emily at some point, he started, I guess, following Nick, because he knew they would eventually meet up, and so they did. So she called him, and she's all gung-ho, like, oh, it's Adam, we need to go, we need to confront him, we need to go to, I guess, the higher up. And Nick is like, we don't have any evidence, and we're talking about the head of the Boston office, and we can't just walk in and accuse him of feeding evidence to a criminal and kidnapping you and keeping you hostage for 6 weeks. Girl, we can't do that. And as an FBI agent, you would think she would know that, but in her, I don't know what to call it. I mean, you want to be understanding of, where she is. I mean, she was kidnapped and tortured for 6 years. She, missed a huge chunk of her son's life, and so you kind of understand why she's adamant about, she really wants to find out what happened to her, gets to the bottom of it, find out what in the world is going on. But it's like her rational mind, which would be, her as an FBI agent or a former FBI agent, would tell her that she does not have enough to go forward. But you need Nick to tell her that we can't go based on what our speculation and innuendo. So he basically told her at that point that it was a warrant issued for her arrest. Because if you remember the last episode, Tommy, I guess, extended some professional courtesy to Nick, and he allowed Nick to be responsible for bringing Emily in after Harlow's murder. And so at this point, he's missed the deadline, because in the last episode, he told her, okay, she needs to be here within the hour. Clearly, that hour has come and gone. They have now issued a warrant for her arrest. And obviously Emily. I guess this episode should have been titled The Emily Show. So I can't remember offhand what the title of this particular episode was, but obviously she's upset. She doesn't know who in her right mind wants to go to prison, but he's basically like, I have to take you in, or they're going to issue, it's going to become a bigger issue. Okay, so they stopped by, and so he basically told her, okay, they're going to stop by his house so that she can see Flynn, basically to say goodbye to Flynn, because she doesn't know, they don't know what's going to happen, even though they know that she didn't commit these murders or commit these crimes. We know the justice system doesn't always benefit the innocent. So because of all the evidence against her, there's a strong possibility they know that she's going to end up going to prison. And so he wanted her to be able to see Flynn and basically potentially say her goodbyes, because like once he takes her in, they don't know what's going to happen after that. And so they get to the house, of course, He, again, once again, not taking Alice into consideration. It was obvious that he didn't call ahead, because they just walked in. She walked around the corner and saw Emily, and it was basically like, bitch, what are you doing here? What's going on? And so she, I'm trying to read this, trying to keep track of my notes. And so she said that she wanted to see Flynn. And of course Allison was like, no, you're not going to do that. And so Nick was basically like, just go, going up. Allison said, well, no, you can't because he's asleep. And so Nick just told her to just going upstairs. So it's like Nick is showing a blatant disregard and disrespect for Alice. And of course, since Emily's return, there's been a lot of tension, and there's been this disconnect between them. And Nick, while I can understand that she didn't leave by choice, the fact of the matter is that Alice was the shoulder that you cried on. She was the one that was there to help you. She was the one that took on the responsibility of helping you raise your son. She was the one that you have had a life with for the past 6 years. And basically what Nick is doing right now is some bullshit. Like, it's almost like Allison, he's treating her like, I don't want to say she's the help, like she's the neck. Like, I don't know what, and probably because I don't know where she stands with him right now. You can imagine that her, in that situation, her character, she's probably feeling like, she's starting to, she's been questioning where she fits in at this point. Because she knows that, I don't want to say the only reason she's there is because Emily was presumed missing or dead. Eventually she was declared dead. So there's a strong possibility that had Emily not been taken, that Emily and Nick would still be together. But the issue is that she was, and they've moved on and presumably had this happy life until Emily returned. And so you can understand Alice's resentment at both of them. Basically, while she understands intellectually that what happened to Emily was not her fault, she also resents her intrusion into her life and the problems that she's causing in what she feels to be her family, which in this essence it is. He's married to Alice. She's been, Flynn's mother for the past 6 years. And so it's just the whole hot ass mess. And then the fact that Nick seems to always be siding with Emily instead of taking Alice into consideration, obviously is adding to that. Okay, so she tells him that, she saw the news story. So basically it's on the news that Emily is suspected in murdering Harlow. So at this point it's known, and it's probably at this point that she's wanted. There's a warrant out for her arrest. And she's basically like, why is she still around? Why are you so trusting of her? Why do you believe so adamantly that she's innocent of this? We don't know. You don't know this new Emily, basically. She's been gone for 6 years, dealing with God knows what. And so she just couldn't understand. And so he basically, he goes upstairs to get Emily to let her know, okay, it's time to go. Because obviously he has to take her in. And I knew it was going to be some bullshit because, again, like Jack said, since you came into his life, it's been the Emily show. So she says that she wants to make a stop. She wants to go to the hotel because she wants to pick up something. What she could be possibly picking up, I don't know, because don't they usually take things when they actually book you? They take everything. So I'm not sure what she would be picking up. So I didn't understand that scene. I guess it was just to set up so they can be back at the hotel, just the two of them. And you already know what happened. He ends up screwing her. It was like some awkward sex scene. And of course, she did what I expected her to do. Actually, I expected her to do it sooner. But he goes into the bathroom to clean himself up. He comes out, and once you know it, Emily is gone. So she done screwed this man, Alice's husband, and then basically dipped out. So you know that his career has been on the line since she came back, because he's the only person that thinks that she's innocent at this point. And so with little regard for what he's put on the line, she basically ditched him because she was like, I can't go back into a box. So she's like, she can't go back to jail. She can't be locked up again. That was basically her thing. And of course, he's panicked. He's like, well, you can't do this, that, because he already knows what's on the line. It only makes you look guilty to run. And she's like, I can't. Like, I just can't do it. I'm thinking, oh, shit. So, you already know that his career is about to go up in smoke because instead of following his logical mind, he was emotional, which one hand you can understand, but another hand it's so frustrating because it's like you just screwed the one person who believed you and was trying to help you and you knew was never going to leave you in the lurch. You basically just flushed his career down the toilet. So yeah, that was a hot mess. So the next thing that happened is that, okay, so Nick ends up calling Tommy, because obviously Tommy's been waiting all this time for him to bring Emily in, and he basically had to call Tommy. He was Boston PD. He's just like a police officer, a detective, I mean, and had to let him know that yeah, I told you that I was gonna bring her in, but plans have changed. Like, basically I screwed her and let her out of my sight, and she dipped out. But he didn't say that. He basically said that he lost her. and of course, Tommy is pissed off because this is a huge case. Two, Tommy, he has pressure on him from the higher ups, and he felt like he was doing a fellow officer a solid, and he's getting screwed. So now you got Nick is being screwed because he was trying to help her and she ditched him, and now Tommy is being screwed by Nick because he was extending a hand to Nick to help him out. So domino effect. And of course Allison is being screwed because Emily, and it's like Jack said, it's been the Emily show, right? So of course he's pissed off, and then Tommy asked him, okay, what was the last thing she was wearing when you saw her? And of course he flashed like, well, she wasn't wearing that much of anything because we just bumped uglies. But he basically told you, oh, she was wearing the jeans and the hoodie and da-da-da-da-da. I don't even remember if that was actually what she was wearing, or he was just saying something. But of course Tommy hung up the phone and he's just like, you know what, this is some bullshit, really. So so Emily eventually calls him, and he pleads with her to turn herself in, and yeah, basically that she was like, I can't be in the box anymore. I can't do this. And he's like, it doesn't. Basically, she told him she's not coming back. That she's going to solve it. She's going to find out what happened to her all on her own. And she asked him not to lose faith in her, which I thought was interesting. It's like, well, bitch, you lost faith in me the minute you ditched me. You knew that I wasn't going to leave you hanging, and you knew that I was going to do everything I can to clear your name. But it doesn't look like you had much faith in me, because you'd have left me here to pick up the piece and clean up this mess. And I have to go in here and talk to my boss to let them know, come up with some story, trying to figure out how you got away from me. So, girl, doing the most. And so, of course, Tommy's still on the hunt, trying to find out what was going on. And so, you flash to Jack. So Jack, unfortunately, he's drinking again. And he calls an escort, basically. And she comes over, and then she, disappears, I guess, in the bathroom to change it to something else. And there's a knock at the door. It's Tommy. Jack opens the door. Tommy's trying to explain to him he's trying to find Emily. And he was like, basically, I don't know where she is. I doubt she's going to come back here again. So Tommy leaves his card. And Jack, he slides the card under the door. And Jack is basically like, I don't really give a shit where she is or what she's doing. Basically, my life has become undone since she came back into it, and I just don't want to do. I could care less. I don't want to be bothered. So wherever she is, I hope she stay there. That was basically Jack's attitude. So Nick is back home, and he's sitting outside the house, and you can imagine that he feels like shit right now because you cheated on a woman who has been with you and has helped you through probably the most difficult time in your life, who loves you, who's trying to be supportive and honest, and has been nothing but honest and real with him, who's helped him raise his son, who has basically built a life with him, and you have basically thrown that away in a sense. So you can see him sitting in the car, and he's kind of like, it's extremely late, so he goes in. Of course, everybody's asleep. It's late, so he gets into bed, and you know, she wakes up, and she starts asking him questions. So he had to end up telling her that she escaped, and of course, Alice is like, "What the hell do you mean she escaped? What do you mean? What happened?" And he told her. He told her that, oh, well, I stopped at a light, and she jumped out and ran. Now, Alice doesn't strike me as a stupid person, so I don't even know whether or not she bought that shit, but that was the story that he fed her. And he was, and she was like, what are you talking about? And he basically was like, she said, so did you try to catch her? He said, of course I tried to catch her. He kind of raised his voice, and she said, why are you yelling at me? And there wasn't a whole lot he could say. He feels like shit, and so he's just a mess. He's just a mess, right? And so, okay, so they're now back at the FBI. They've now found out that Emily is on the run. Tommy is there, and Adam is basically doing a briefing. Basically saying that, you know, she's not the Emily that we once knew, you know, given everything that's happened to her. She's changed, she's violent, you know, basically proceed with extreme caution. We need to bring her in. And Tommy is, and you know, they give Tommy the floor. And so, this is the next day. And so, they kind of flashed, they didn't show what his whole spiel was on this situation, but, so they flashed to Nick. Nick is following Adam, going into Adam's office. Nick went into Adam's office to give him a chance to confess. She started again back with his questioning. Adam was like, I don't know what you're talking about. She's gotten into your head. Ever since she came back, you've not been right. We know she screwed up. And basically, he took his badge. He said, you know, you're suspended. Give me your badge and your gun. And so, of course, he did, and, you know, Nick is not happy about it. But he brought this on himself. So, you just a fool, right? Just a mess. Again, the Emily show, leaving just a mess in his way. Now, she's not completely solely to blame, but it seemed like everybody's lives were working out just fine before she came back. So, okay. So, you show Emily, she's at the pool. She wanted to see Flynn. And he kind of met her up. I don't know. It's kind of in another room, or I don't know if it's kind of a terrace or something. He was like, why are you up here? And so obviously she couldn't have anybody see her. And so she's talking to him, and she's basically explaining to him, you know, you're going to probably hear some things about me for a while, and I want to let you know that it's not true, And so next thing you know, Alice walks up, and she asks her, what are you doing here? And she was like, I'm here to see my son. I want to talk to my son. And I was like, you don't have any right to be here. And basically, you need to leave before I call the cops. And let them know where you are. And so Emily is like still standing there like, you know, that's my son and I have a right to be here. Allison grabbed Flynn. No, actually Allison picked up her phone, called the police. Flynn never went back downstairs. So he ran over to her and, you know, was begging her not to call the cops. Alice grabbed Flynn. She's on the phone like, yeah, I know where this itch is. Y'all need to come and get her. So, of course, at this point, Emily took off running. Just a mess. Just an absolute mess, right? And so, Tommy goes over to Emily's father's place. And, of course, that's her ace, right? Her ace, boom, boom. They, you know, think of Steve's. He loves Emily and do anything for her. So Tommy's asking him, and he's also a former cop. So he knows all the tricks and the questioning and all that kind of stuff. And so he was basically saying, I haven't heard from her and I haven't seen her, Then she know the phone rings, and he picks up the phone, and it's her, but he calls her by somebody else's name. And he has a little pamphlet on his stand that was talking about some poker tournament or something. So he called her something. It was like, oh, how's the tournament? Tommy is not stupid. So after he gets off the phone with her, Tommy's like, okay, well, who was that? And he was like, it was Rosa or somebody. I don't know who it was. Obviously, Tommy's not buying it. But he was basically like, you know, if she tries to contact you, let me know. He was like, So Tommy leaves, and her father calls him an asshole. It's like, he's not doing anything differently than you would have, than you did when you were a cop. So, it's just, these people are, they're too much. They're too much. Okay, so after turning in his badge and his gun, Nick gets home. And of course Alice wants to talk, and he is just not, he's doing everything he can to avoid, like he can't even look at her. So he's changing because she's trying to talk to him, and he's giving her like these one-word answers, and so what's going on, like we need to talk, and we need to do it right now. He said, I just need to go, I'm just going to go for a run. And she was like, well, she said, but you don't want to talk to me or something. And he just all of a sudden just shut down. And she was like, so is this how it's going to be? You're just going to ignore me? And he just basically like, well, you know, I have to go. And he walks out. Like, he can't even look her in the eye. He know he screwed up so bad. So you have Emily. Okay, so this is where everything comes together. So Adam is leaving, I don't know, if the gun range or whatever. But he gets into his truck. Who's in the back seat? So he gets in his truck, obviously he doesn't see her. She puts a knife to his throat, and she basically kidnaps Adam, right? So she's in the car, she's directing Adam to where she wants him to go. And she called Nick. So you see Nick's ass sleeping on the couch, right? He answers the phone. She was like, she tells him that she has Adam. And he was like, do you realize that you just abducted the head of the Boston FBI office? And she was like, well, I'm abducting him the same way he abducted me. And Nick is basically telling her, your life is going to be ruined. Please turn around. He was like, basically he was trying to plead with her emotionally, like, do you want Flynn to see you getting shot down in the street by SWAT? Just turn around and come back, and, you know, basically we're going to deal with this. Just turn the car around. Don't do what you're about to do. And so somehow he's recording this call. So she basically lets him know she's not coming back, and hangs up. And so she took him to the place where she was abducted, or the last place to the place where she was abducted. I don't know if it was a naval office or someplace. I can't remember the name of the location. So she takes him there. How she was able to get him? So you see Adam, and it's like she has his mouth duct tape, his eyes duct tape, and he's kind of handcuffed or tied to this chair. And I'm like, how did you manage to do all that by yourself? I'm just like, I didn't get how that worked out, but there he was in this chair. And so it's kind of flashing back and forth with her questioning him, and Nick is actually going over the recording because he's trying to go over the recording. He has a software that's kind of cleaned up the recording so he can hear the background. He can kind of figure out basically what's going on. And something kept sticking out to him where she said, I'm going back to where I was taken or abducted, or she was making some reference to that. And so he pulled her file. He was able to pull up her file because he obviously FBI has access to the database, and he was able to find the location of where she last was when she was abducted. And so he ends up calling Tommy and was like, I know where she is, and basically I need you to help me to go and get her and bring her in. Okay, so this whole time she's been questioning Adam, and somehow there's this pool there that's filled with water. Adam was like, I don't know what you're talking about. It wasn't me. He denied. She's like, okay. So she ends up basically dipping his head in the water, like half drowning him, torturing him to get him to confess. And so eventually he confessed to being the dirty agent. He confessed to feeding information to Samaroff, because remember in the early episodes she said that she could never figure out how he was always one step ahead of her because there was somebody tipping him off. He admitted to doing that, but he did not admit to kidnapping her. And so she said she saw the journal, and she was like, well, why do I see this journal of the bleeding eyes, and why are these images in my head, and I see it in your book? What is the connection? And he was like, the bleeding eye was basically the only tip, because ever since you left, I was still investigating your disappearance, and the bleeding eye was the only tip that we had. And he explained to her that the bleeding eye is not a person, it's a place. And so he was trying to ask her what does she remember about that. Maybe she remembers it. Maybe she's been there before. or maybe it's something her mind cooked up. It's just he's trying to, I guess in a sense, help her figure things out. And so that's when you see Tommy and Nick pull up, and so they're kind of walking through, they're calling it out for Adam, and eventually Adam was like, I'm in here, and so they're following the voice, and she runs out, like I forget what exchange they had, but she ends up running out just as they were about to come into the office. They had their guns drawn, and so the next thing you know, you hear pow, 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 pow. There's somebody starts shooting the place up. Adam, still tied to this chair, ends up being shot, and he is killed. And so, once again, Emily, obviously, is going to be seen as the victim because they have her on camera kidnapping him. So, they know that she kidnapped him, and now he's dead, and this is the head of the FBI's Boston office. So, you already know, at this point, what can Nick do? You know, there's not a whole lot, because it's like every step of the way, she's been making the situation worse. So that was basically how this episode ended. I probably forgot some things, but again, like I said, this whole reviewing shows, it's kind of new to me, and I'm still trying to figure out my formula and how to set up my reviews. But I'm going to end this here, and I will talk to you guys later.